And second budget hearing of the Madison County Board of Education for Thursday, September 5th, 2019 is in session. Sherry, would you mind leading us in prayer?
Our Father, Lord, we thank you that you've given us this day. Father, we just pray for your help to think clearly and to do things in a way that please and honor you. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Opening meeting. Item B, I recommend approval of the agenda dated September 5th, 2019.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of the agenda dated September 5th, 2019. Any discussion? If there is none, all those in favor say aye.
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 I have 3 items for the superintendent's update. First of all, I think I mentioned it last meeting, but this past Tuesday, Andrea Perry, a 6th grade math teacher at Moores Mill Intermediate School, along with Mr. Daniel Evans, Jr., the principal at Moores Mill, and myself, we went to the Bicentennial of Excellence ceremony, where Moores Mill Intermediate School was awarded a check from Governor Ivey, not her personally, but from this group, being one of 21 schools to earn the award, and they had received a $5,000 check to go towards the school and their projects as far as what they're doing towards supporting the Bicentennial and what they're doing in the community. Second thing is this month is Attendance Awareness Month. So as part of that, I provided you with enrollment data that I sent you a little bit ago, which is up on the screen now. So from last year, and I'd sent you guys some other information, and I don't think that was as accurate as I'd hoped, so I tried to get you the most accurate information. Those numbers do not include pre-K that are up there. So with pre-K, we have 19,159 students, which is up 66 students from last year. And you can see if it's in red, they have gone down in numbers. If it's in green, they have gone up in numbers. If you look at the high schools for the most part, you'll see they're dropping, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that we now have a line, which is 13, which is the virtual, the Madison County Virtual Academy, which now has an enrollment of 274. Last year, those individuals were counted within their high school or middle school attendance. So those are actually pulled out, which is the current numbers that we have.
So the majority of the virtual academy students are students that would be in our high schools?
Correct.
Okay.
You know, there's some big, if you look at Lynn Fanning, they're up 81 students from last year, which is really 4 classrooms.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Oh.
So, like Sparkman's up 16, but how many virtual are dragging that number down?
Tim, do you have that number?
Probably, I think, it was around 80.
Up 80?
It was around 80 students.
Oh.
In Sparkman High School that are in the virtual academy.
So around 80 students that were,
So they would be 100, I guess, so they would be roughly 95 to 100 more if all of those kids were.
And like the ninth grade at Spartan, you think that virtual academy partly or just,
There are students from Sparkman High attending virtual, but it is probably the school that we have, I mean, that's not an anomaly. Their enrollment kind of fluctuates 25 to 30 every year or so.
That's when people exit out too and go to private school. A lot.
that may be part of it. Some of it too is just the enrollment that's coming from the 2 feeder middle schools. You know, Monrovia's been down a little bit, so part of that could be as well. But just want to share that with you. It's in your inbox, so you can actually take a look at it more. If you have additional questions, let us know. When we get the 20th day after Labor Day and we get our official ADM numbers, we'll get those to you as well. All right, so item number 2, presentation of the second budget presentation by Ms. Karen O'Bannon.
I don't really have a presentation as such. However, you have your booklet. And the reason we went to this style for the final budget is because the state requires the staffing sheets by school. And this was just an easier format for everybody. If you need one, there's some on this table here, but it's just an easier format for us. And so these are, those staffing sheets in the back are submitted to the State Department of Education as well. But this is our official second public budget hearing prior to the board approving the budget for fiscal year 2020. So if you have any questions about any fund type, please feel free to ask. Sheets are in the back of the room as well for anyone that might have questions or comments. You can, we do submit those to the state if there are any as well. We covered in great detail the general operating budget at the last board meeting, so I won't take much of your time. I can't get this to, let me see. I won't take much of your time, but we have made a few adjustments as a result of finalizing the sources and uses for federal programs, so I will go over those. But if you'll follow along, if you don't mind, the sheets that we want to cover for the changes that were made and maybe some items I need to reemphasize. Page 4, this is the summary budget exhibit that Lauren put in the agenda for the board approval tonight. It includes all fund types. So this is what you'll be looking at when the recommendation is made. We discussed the projected ending fund balance for general operation, as you can see in that first column, with our 1 month requirement reserve, which will average about $14 million for next year, and that's up about $500,000 from last year, and much of that is the personnel cost and additional funds that we are receiving from the state increase that average. The ending fund balance projection is different from the first hearing because we had some increased program costs for special needs students. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, and more of those costs were absorbed by local funds. So we'll look at that when we go back to look at our federal programs. We talked about that allocation being cut, and I'll go into a little more detail on that. But our ending fund balance projection, let's go on to page 5. It's easier to follow. So of that $16.9 million, when we take out the 1 month operating reserve of $14 million, the set-asides for our Snyder projects, the debt, and then some textbook funds that we haven't yet obligated in the 2020 budget because we're not sure if we can carry some of those over, as well as some of the A&T funds for technology. We're not sure yet if we'll need all of those for that particular area that weren't obligated. We will still have an excess of around $600,000, which would, if you look at our $14 million and the days that equals to, that's about an extra day. So, but we'll have some, a little bit over that requirement, even taking out those set-asides. So, I will make the changes. I just wanted Alita to know too, the changes for that projection, this page that we're looking at, that were in your PowerPoint last time, that's on the website. So I will make those adjustments and the analysis of beginning fund balance as well. And there's one other sheet where I made some changes. So I will go ahead and have those in by tomorrow, Alita, and we can update that on the website. So we'll have correct information out there. So with that being said, let's go on to, I have one more before we get to special revenue funds and talk about our federal programs. I'm not going over our general operating budget again because nothing really has changed except for absorbing some costs for special needs. I'm skipping over all the state funds and because nothing has changed. But I did have to make 2 corrections on the staffing sheet on page 13. The totals are the same. However, Monrovia Elementary, I had 1.5 assistant principals locally and no counselors, and that's wrong. It was 1 assistant and 0.5 counselors. And I just wanted you to know that that was an error, and I corrected that. Riverton Intermediate, I had 0 assistant principals and a 0.5 counselor. I had it in the wrong column. So it's all a wash when you get to the totals at the bottom. And again, all this ties with the staffing sheets in the back. There's a summary page in the back, and I'll show you that at the very end. And everything will tie to these numbers as far as our locally funded units. So we are going to move on to our special revenue fund type. We will go over to page 28. If you'll recall, we looked at the federal allocations at the last board meeting, noted that most programs were level funded with the exception of Idea B. And we did, I just wanted you to, Ms. Stump sent an email to the State Department, so we could try to understand why that allocation was cut $200,000. And because our child count and our program needs continue to increase. And so I was just going to share a little bit of their answer, which it's a little confusing, but there's a state agency, Special Education Services, that typically supplements our allocation, and they weren't able to do that for 2020. I have a call in to Miss Erica Richburg to see how that looks in future periods, but I don't know yet. But she said also keep in mind that the LEA allocations are not based on the preceding year's child count, okay? They benchmark our child count in 1997 and 1999. That's the benchmark. The remaining allocation is a percentage of average daily membership. They look at that, 85% of the calculation, and our poverty certification for direct served kids is the other 15%.
So
So,
the state does
figure.
this, or the federal people use those 1990s numbers?
the state of Alabama.
Okay. Our state.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Bates.
Not the state.
So I did ask how, so she said, so really relying on child count, it's what it was in 1999.
20 years?
Yes, sir.
Is there any,
Ms. Stump, am I saying this correctly? That's where they benchmark. But I did ask for clarification, and I only asked this week, so she hasn't got back with me. She's out of the office. She should be back in the morning. But,
How often do they do?
so basically, it's based on ADM and our poverty percentage.
How often do they update their benchmark?
I don't think they have.
But, yeah,
I don't know. I'll ask that question.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when you look at maintenance of efforts for special education, we're supposed to maintain a certain percentage of local and state funds that we provide, and we do. But you have to maintain that, and that started in 1997. They don't update that. I mean, you could have changes in your system, new schools, there are certain exceptions where you can ask for a waiver on maintenance of effort if you're not meeting it. But we're meeting it because we provide a lot of support from local funds. So,
but you said they still do consider ADM.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. They look at that rather than the child count,
Gotcha.
basically. I'll try to find out more. It was just puzzling that as our needs increase, our allocation decreased. So, and of course, we're not alone. There are other school systems in the state. So let's look at Idea B. It's on the next page, page 29. With our $3.7 million allocation, we were able to pick up the 82 McBow aides that we have in the classrooms. And then the expenditures that are listed here. So at the bottom, I put a footnote down there, and this is new for you. We were not able to pick up, as a result of the increased program needs and the federal allocation cut, we had to use local funds to backfill the following, which was our spur aides. We have 20, so we have a total of 102 aides, but the spur aides are 20. I will tell you the difference in the cost enabled us to add 5 classroom aides this year. The spur aid runs about $21,000 on average, and the McBow aid $27,000. Our OTPT contracts, we already covered a lot of the personnel salaries in local monies. I just wanted you to see the difference, what we're adding this year. Health supplies and equipment, interpreter, Miss Sally Dobbs, I shouldn't name people, but she was one of our wonderful interpreters. She was in the Idea B, so we pulled that out into local, and we'll most likely, we can't supplant and push these people back and forth, so we'll keep her in local monies. Then our field trip Special Olympics, and the reason that 11,208 is a weird, odd number is because you have to back into the benefits for our drivers, So for a total of $726,632, in addition to the $2.2 million we're already with that program, and that doesn't include any attorney's fees or anything like that. So that's part of the monies that we had in excess that we were able to put into this program, much needed program. So just wanted you to know where our local monies are going. Any questions on that? So we're going to move on to Title I.
So before, how much local did we have going there?
2.2 million.
2.2 million local before this year?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much this year?
3 million.
3 million, okay.
The 2.2 million, Ms. Rucker, that would include, that has the 4% raise in it, so it would have been a little less than that last year. That we cover some psychometrists already, some OT personnel. Primarily all of that, for the majority, is personnel cost that we were already covering for the personnel in that program. For Title I, you can just see the set-asides that in the administrative cost in the first column. And then we showed you the balance last year. That says school allocations before parent involvement. It should say school allocations with parent involvement, because we send those monies to the schools for them to work with Ms. Bass and Mr. Solly on how they want to use it for parent involvement. So I showed you that 2.3 million. It's on the next page, page 31. How the monies are allocated to the schools based on the percentage, their poverty percentage. So that's nothing new for you to see. We did finalize Title II. It's on the next page, page 32, for our class size reduction. We were able to, and we needed to, add 5 units from this money where we had the greatest needs, comparing class sizes across the district. So you can see where our greatest needs were. And that equates to about $423,000 of this allocation, with the remaining approximately $120,000 or 25% going toward professional development for the district. I won't go over child nutrition program unless you have any questions. I have no changes there. We can move over to the debt service fund type. It's on page 36. And the reason I want you to look at this again, if you'll note our 2011 A and B series warrants. Since our last presentation, I have had the opportunity to meet with Johnny Deal, our investment broker, as well as talk to Tom Francis on the phone to discuss refinancing those 2011 series warrants. They're not callable at this time. That means they don't mature until like 2021. But with the interest rates as low as we've seen in such a long time, we can still refinance those. They would just be taxable warrants. And typically, you don't get a great rate on taxable warrants, but we will today. I'm just going to give you the numbers for today. We could recoup and save about $5 million that we could take that money, leave our debt service, principal and interest payments the same annually, and take the money up front for capital improvements. So that's good news. Now, that's today. So what we're doing, I'm working on that official statement that you've all seen, sending all the financial information of our district, of our community of North Alabama, so that we can get in line with Moody's and S&P for a bond rating. They are flooded right now with folks doing this. So we want to at least get in line, hopefully next week. So that's what I've been working on this week, is getting the information to them. So we want to be in a position to move with interest rates where they are right now. We did not anticipate that, and it's a great opportunity for our school system.
In the past, how long from start to finish does that take?
Typically 60 to 90 days.
And it's usually flooded, I guess, because when we do it, everybody else wants to do it.
Not flooded like it is now.
Okay.
But we're hoping, optimistically, 1st of November-ish. If not, you have to wait till after the holidays, because nothing really happens in the market during the holidays, and would be December 1.
Right.
Okay.
That's the target date right now, but I'll keep you posted if that changes. Again, we're going to talk about the capital plan tonight. I didn't change anything as far as the BRAC bonds. You know the balance is there and what's already been obligated. And as we spend, at fiscal year end, I'll give you another update as to actual numbers and what we have to carry over, but none of that changed. So with that being said, if you move to page 44 for the staffing summary, we'll know our 2019-20 ADM in just a few days, 20 days. So we can't plug that in right now, but we do know the staff that we're supporting for this year. And then the individual breakdowns are behind that on the staffing sheets. And I will update the PowerPoint. We'll have that out if anyone wants to. It has mostly the same information, except for the items I went over tonight. Any questions before?
Well, one time we were speaking about the loans that the schools had and possibly doing something with them. What happened with that?
You mean using some of the A&T money for them?
I mean, I think that's what we said one time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And that's the criteria that money can be used for, and those, Dr. Minsky may want to speak to that, but those schools that can't make their bond payments, their loan payments, principal and interest, with their TVA monies, we're asking them to apply some of that money toward those loans so that we can get it more in line with something that's affordable for them.
Which money?
The A&T money.
So
So the A&T money, the high schools were given $180,000 to use towards outdoor
Or their loans.
or their loans. Middle schools were given
60.
and elementary were given 15,000.
So we already did that.
So that's already been dispersed. They're providing us information as for what they want to spend that on. I know one of our high schools put a significant amount of that towards their loan debt to kind of get it to the point where their TVO money only would be able to pay.
Can we kind of get a recap of that? Who got what and how it's used?
This is how we're doing it, Ms. Rucker. Not many have requested the money yet. They don't receive it until it's requested. Dr. Minsky, me, and then Mr. Wilkerson and now Joe Kazort reviews those for how they want to use the money, and we're keeping a spreadsheet. So we don't disperse it. We wait until we know how they're spending it and what it looks like.
Okay.
So we only have a few so far. That's why our fund balance moving forward at October 1 has that. We received the $5 million already, but we haven't dispersed that part to the local schools. And the way we're able to do that was by flexing other expenditures with that money so that we could free up local funds to do that. But I can give you an update on what's been dispersed so far.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. I
And
sure will.
going forward, I think everybody would like to know how
Absolutely.
everybody's using their.
We can do
I
that.
mean, if you want it monthly, quarterly, usually, right now, see, they have until September 30, 2020 to spend it. So we received it early. The state is fine with them going ahead, and us going ahead and using the money. So we're kind of putting a deadline on it, 2020, to follow the A&T pot of money.
We've had everything from refinishing gym floors that needed to be done, playground equipment for some of the elementary. Well, so it's varied as far as what they've actually requested, but as they're sending them in, and some of our schools are just sending in little, they're asking for 25 here and 25,000 here, and
So will we
15.
approve contracts from that, or is that just all
The
somebody?
contracts, Ms. Rucker, would be, so if it's a bid item, yes, we would bid it. The schools, we will have contracts just like anything else. It's mostly, most of these are purchase orders.
Okay.
Most of them will be purchase orders. But I can send something currently, and then if you want to see it every other month, I don't think monthly we would have enough activity because they have such a long time to do that. Many of them are planning it, and they want to ask for the entire, say, 180 at one time, or the entire 60 at one time, so they're not requesting the funds. But we have a form for them, and we're tracking it in my office.
Okay, and Joe
So-
Kazort's kind of checking too, so if it's a situation where they have to go through the building commission for whatever their project is, we're making sure that's happening as well, so.
And if they do have large debt, you are encouraging them.
Yes, ma'am.
That money
Yes, ma'am.
kind of offset.
Yes, ma'am. And we already know of 2 schools that are doing that with some of it. But I will get you where we are right now, and then we'll follow up at fiscal year end and then Christmas break, something like that. Or anytime you want it, just let me know. Okay, anything else?
Question, so are we still doing the thing where, like, we had some amount of money the board used to have, and now we're giving it to the schools, so are they, are we?
Yes, ma'am.
Very much.
It's in the budget breakdown I gave you, it's in that maintenance. I noted that it's called the ADM allocation now, because every school is divided by that particular cluster by their ADM. And so,
Do we ever know how that gets spent?
yes, ma'am, we keep up with that the same way.
That might be good to get. Sure. Like, I don't know what last year's was, and then this year's, I mean,
Absolutely, yes.
okay.
And that is more for capital maintenance, like non-routine maintenance, that things we don't normally take care of for them. So we've asked them to use it in that manner for capital and maintenance needs.
Yeah,
In the school, it's not geared toward athletics.
right.
I'll get you that too.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you, Ms. O'Bannon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bannon.
On to Section 3, informational items. So discussion of demographer contract. I was asked by a board member to look into hiring a demographer to do a study of our system as far as future growth, what's happening. We could look at the growth that's going on, the building and construction, but felt it was important to bring someone in who could actually give us a 5-year and a 10-year kind of plan as far as what's happening. So before our CEO left his current position, he had checked with a couple of local school systems. So we had 2 school systems in our area. Huntsville City has used one of the contractors, and Madison City had used the other contractor. 2 of our central office staff, Mr. Perkins and Mr. Solly, and I met with each of the companies, and for what we need right now, you'll see later on the recommendation is to go with a company that is going to be of lesser cost. I think that person can give us what we need as far as where the building's happening, what the numbers are going to be, and give us the information that we need right now. And I think it's going to be really good for a new superintendent to be able to come in and shortly after they're arriving have a good piece of information that's accurate as far as what's happening, where's the growth, where's the building going on. I mean, we've got information today that we have 600-800 houses being built up in a development up in the Hales Green area. So we're constantly hearing these things. So to kind of get this down and get this information, I think would be beneficial for us moving forward.
Of course, it's very fluid. I mean,
It is fluid. Absolutely. I mean, they're constantly, Joe can probably speak to it better than I can, but, constantly we're getting information about new developments being built or the county commission's approving a new development to be built.
So so the minute you get it, it's not long after that it's probably not any good, so how do you keep it?
Well, I think what their, part of theirs is their projection numbers. They can give you the current numbers, and then they'll also give you what their projected numbers is, what they're projecting based on the current building going on, what the future development looks like. They can kind of give us a projection as what they think it'll look like. I mean, realistically, the 5-year model is kind of is going to be a lot closer than what a 10-year model is going to show us. He's, the person I'm going to recommend later has a pretty good track record. He's got good feedback from the system that had used him.
What's the turnaround time on it, once they're done with once they go out and they do all their evaluation and they study, what's the turnaround time?
He gave that in his,
I couldn't find it, but maybe I missed it.
I thought he did.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks after the contract agreement, person will begin work on the information. Tim and Alan, do you remember what
The study within 4 to 8 weeks.
4 to 8
Yeah,
weeks.
48.
4 days, okay, yeah.
I guess, would there be any way to have them periodically update it without expending all this money all over again?
I would imagine that if they give us how they collect their data, we can update it ourselves, possibly.
Do you guys remember any conversation about coming back for a follow-up? I don't.
I mean, it's not, we're not really in a normal place because we're growing so rapidly.
Correct.
So it seems like for the next 2 or 3 years, you'd almost have to have a relook.
And that's something we can definitely have a discussion about with that, kind of see what that would be.
Is there anything that we talked about if it's not done on time? The reason I ask that is because, as you know, the last time we had a significant, lengthy delay from the time that they said, no, it was not this company.
No.
Any of the companies we currently are using.
Right.
Or currently looking at. But that did come up last time, was that the delay was so long and we had no recourse to be able to get that done or cancel or basically
Recoup your money?
fix it.
Okay. I have not had that discussion with this individual.
Yeah, and I
That
hate to
is
put that
something
on
that
this person or
Well, no.
these, that may be very dependable, but
Right.
last time we really got ourselves in quite a situation. I think it was supposed to be done by September, and it was February of the next year, and we still didn't have it. I don't think we ended up getting it till May. It was egregious.
And will this be something that we could use with our ongoing unitary status? Or will we have to have someone else?
We'll have
when
to
it's
ask Cindy
time
that.
for that.
Well, that was one of the things one of the questions that came to mind. If he's willing, he says in this agreement that he's willing to contract by the hour for, community presentations or input sessions. This fee does not include any court presentations. So it's my understanding he's willing to go to do that. Is that correct?
If we pay him
Dr. Minsky?
for that.
Yeah, you would have to pay anybody.
Yeah, right, I understand.
I know from conversations, he was not interested in doing, hey, we're going to look at a build a school here, let me do the community meetings and that type of thing. That's something I know that he was not interested in.
It says that they will begin the study 2 weeks after approval, and the study can take between 4 to 8 weeks and complete the
within
study.
4 weeks.
Correct. So
4 to 8 weeks.
my question is, after that 4 to 8 weeks, when would we get the study? It kind of goes back to Angie's question a little bit. I mean, are they going to wait 2 months to give us the study, or are they going to give us the turnaround time from the time they finish the study until we have it in our hands? What is that turnaround time?
I think it's implied that we get it in 4 to 8 weeks.
Within 4 to 8 weeks,
Because it's
pending.
deliverable.
I don't know, it says and complete the study within 4 to 8 weeks. To me, I read that as,
It's under the heading deliverables, huh?
yeah, and it says, to me, it says, and complete the study within 4 to 8 weeks. That means that's going to take them 4 to 8 weeks to do the study, gather all the materials, take what we give them, do the study. It doesn't say when they will provide us with a final copy. I guess I'm looking where the words final copy.
Couple options, if you'd like, I can go ahead and get these questions answered and bring this back up on the 17th. And we can move forward pending the answers to these questions. We'll discuss that when we get down to that section of it. Any other questions or any other things you'd like to make sure we hash out with individual before moving forward?
The travel and other basic expenses, is that just for one individual or for multiple?
One.
Okay, okay.
The other firm seems, I mean, it seems on a piece of paper anyway, that they have more credentials, but you have talked with the local system and.
Yeah. He comes recommended from that system. And I think for the basic of what we're looking for right now, I think we can do that. He can provide the information that we need right now.
I think he's done all of the studies for that school system and all of their, as they rezone.
Every year or two, right?
Yes.
So it's an ongoing thing, okay.
All right, we'll move down to item B, discussion of sewer lines. Mr. Gazort.
Pleasant topic to talk about.
How do we get that over?
Austin? No?
He's,
Pointing.
I don't know emoji.
We have it in our material.
We've got it.
Yeah, we've got, Joe, we have it in our materials, so you can go ahead forward.
Well, I was gonna show it to you on screen, but,
Still has a paper copy, by the way.
I've got a paper copy, so we're gonna do as well as we can. Thank you. Let me get prepared. All right, Emily Cook, which is here with us tonight, and her husband Shane Cook, they own a Hyco utility company. They have the sewer plant. It is on the Hazel Green property right now, and they're looking to try to get a sewer line to the corner lot at Joe Quick and the Parkway. And by doing that, they have two options of trying to get it there. They showed me two different options of even coming across down the Parkway in front of both of our schools or across the south end of the property here. So they come to us asking for an easement to get a 2-inch pressurized sewer line. It'd be bored underneath the south end of our property. Emily and I actually walked out, went to the site, made sure that we weren't, going to cause any issues there or problems. They'll bore it all the way and tie into the sewer line behind Hazel Green Elementary lunchroom. Now, it's a shorter route for them, no issues for us. What I didn't like about coming down the Parkway, we've got to come across both entrances to our schools and causing a lot of issues there. Traffic, boring, other lines, and then they've got to still get an easement from us in front of that. So they've come to us asking for that, and I brought them in tonight or asked, hey, we're getting there. You said you didn't have one. One more, please. There we are. Okay. So the green line is the line I'm looking at and what they've proposed to us to tie into the existing sewer line behind our school. They have offered, obviously, by doing this, all construction cost is theirs, all cleanup, any type of environmental, the care for it in the future and now is all going to be on them. And talking to Emily back and forth, currently, if you're in a normal sewer system somewhere else that has a sewer system, city, whatever else, they are responsible for the sewer line up to 5 foot of your building envelope. That is not currently this way. When you took it over 2 years ago, currently, all right, they have the plant and the outline going lines from there, correct?
Yeah, we own the plant and that pump station, which is where that yellow line comes to that box over there on the north side of Hazel Green High School.
Yes.
Those are the only two things that we own. You own and maintain all of the lines that are underneath all of the
Okay? So with this and us talking, you know, they're asking something from us, so I approached them of, all right, this is typical, it's not now, but will they take ownership of the lines from the pump station back to our schools within 5 foot of our envelope? Which that, to us, is gonna save us for the future. You know, it's just one of those unknowns. Is there gonna be a problem there for, do we have to dig it up if it breaks or anything like that? And they, if we can do this, then you've agreed to take on that liability for maintenance from here out. So not only are they asking something, but we're going to get something out of it for our school system as well. But I'd like to open it up for questions. I know Mr. Curry and I have talked about it to see what your ideas are. That's why I brought the experts in here to talk about it with us, okay?
What's your time frame from beginning to end when you, if you were to get started?
Mr. Curry, we really don't know. That development has been, or that lot has been purchased by a bank that will be coming in to develop it. They're in the design stages now. They've come to us to ask about the availability of sewer. And therefore, we came to the school system to discuss that. The original contracts with Southwest Water that actually put the plant there in the beginning, and then it's assigns and successors, therefore HICO Utilities, allows us to come ask for easements from the school board basically at any point in time. You know, we've got to, the school board and the utility company's got to agree on where they go and all that, and basically agree that if something in the future changes to where, hey, we need to move this line, that we're willing to move the line. And obviously that is the case. HICO has procured easements on the north side off of the school site on private property, all the way around the school system and back up Joe Quick on the back side. So really what we've got is a island in that, I guess that would be the northeast corner of the intersection of Joe Quick and the Parkway, that we don't have service to. And obviously it's pretty much surrounded by the school. Everything up and down the other drives going into the school are on septic tanks, and they probably will not change. And everything else we've got goes north, back over to Walmart and the developments y'all were speaking of a while ago, and then back around. So this is really just an island there that we're trying to get service to.
To answer your question about timeframe, when we do begin construction, we understand school is in session, and so we will work during breaks.
Okay.
Whenever the bank is ready to move forward, we'll wait for the next fall break, spring break, Christmas break, whatever, to begin construction so that no children are out there with construction work, you know, so.
Not pouring as well is going to keep the construction site much cleaner, much quicker too.
Yeah, surface area, you know,
Disturbs a lot less.
yeah, so.
How long do you anticipate the project taking? I'm sorry.
They'll do the bore on a 1.5 inch line in a couple of days. I mean, it's not, you know, it's almost the same thing if they come out and put a water line service from one side of the road to your house in a day. It's basically the same thing. It's just a couple of 100 feet long.
No.
Now, the other question I had asked was make sure that the plant that is servicing our schools now, is it sized right so that if they put the bank on it, are we going to have issues? And there again, we're not going to have issues.
We have plenty of capacity to manage the bank.
Any other questions?
Cindy, what do we need for the board to consider? Do we need a contract for this, or how does that?
We will, I need to go back and pull the original agreement
Okay,
and work from that and see what we need to do.
okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to administrative items. All right, letter A, recommend approval of the capital plan for 2020, 2024.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the fiscal year 2020-2024 capital plan. Any discussion? Appreciate y'all breaking this out a little bit, breaking it down a little bit. Where'd he go? Oh, he already left. Okay.
Just walk out.
We did. Is there any pending discussion? Capital plan? If there is none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Item B, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 2020 budget.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval for the FY 2020 budget. Any discussion? Thank you, Karen, for your hard work in getting this to us and always presenting a well-defined picture of our financial standings. There's no other discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 I'll make the next recommendation. Y'all can give me your guidance on how you'd like me to proceed. So I recommend approval of the contract of the demographic study to SF Salmon Planning LLC.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the contract for the demographic study to SF Salmon Planning LLC. Any discussion?
I think I'm okay with proceeding as long as we clarify those things before
Okay. Karen, get a final date as when,
final date and what,
what repercussions for,
make sure that somewhere in there it says if,
okay.
I agree. I'm good with proceeding as long as we have that information in the contract before they start. Anybody else? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Item D, I recommend approval of the July financial statements and payment of bills.
motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the financial statement, payments of bills, and cash reports for July of 2019. Any discussion? If there is none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Item E, I recommend approval of the following personnel items as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the following personnel items as submitted. Any discussion?
On page 5, under the approval of aides, number 3 and number 4, is that for 7th and 8th grade, or is it is that just a typo?
Which one?
Page
Page
5.
5, approval of aides, number 3 and number 4.
That would be Mr. Everett. We have the same individual down twice. Is that a typo, sir?
All right. It's two different people. It's two different people.
Oh, it is. It is. First name is
Oh,
different.
I'm sorry, my eyes.
Yeah.
Are these twins? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my eyes are playing tricks on me. I'm sorry.
I did the same thing when I looked at it. I was like, hang on.
I did.
Okay, okay. I apologize.
You've piqued his interest.
Yeah.
If there's no further discussion or clarification, all those in favor say aye.
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 Item F, I recommend approval of the following contracts for services.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of contracts for services as submitted. There's no further discussion or any discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Item H, I recommend approval for Mary Stump to enter into negotiations in a special education matter. Oh, did I miss one?
Did you miss one?
Oh, yes, I did. Let me back up. Item G.
You did.
I recommend approval of the following supplemental contracts as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of supplements as submitted. Any discussion?
The huge $90 for the lead bus drivers.
Yes, ma'am. I believe Mr. Cubic and Mr. Gazorder are working on that now.
Right now.
Any additional discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, item H. I recommend approval for Mary Stump to enter into a negotiations in a special education matter.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation that the board authorize Mary Stump to negotiate and enter into a resolution session agreement, mediation agreement, or settlement agreement in a special education complaint regarding a special needs student. Cannot have any discussion, so all those in favor say aye.
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 Mr. President, I have a certification. I'd like to request a, executive session for legal update you on pending litigation and inland license.
Okay. So we have a certificate for an executive session to discuss pending and ongoing legal litigation or litigation. So at this time, we will adjourn into executive session. We will only come back in here to adjourn the meeting in total. So you're welcome to hang around, but I do not know how long this will take. So I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn into executive session. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned into executive session.